ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team in Rochester. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined, not as always, actually returning to the show from a semi-long hiatus, Teddy Bear to himself, Nick Steblenko. Welcome back, Nick.
Thank you very much, Donald. It is very, very nice to be back. I was off perusing the world, stopping in many different places. Where did you have me stopping while I was out of here?
I think you were in the Philippines at one point. I think you were on the Great Wall of China at one point.
You know, I had a lot of great food while I was in those places, particularly their rice dishes.
Okay. Somehow I knew you were listening to the show while you were perusing the world, and you knew that there was a ban on the word San Francisco something. Yeah, that San Francisco treat, that thing. We can't talk about that.
Grain-a-roni.
Okay, Grain-a-roni's fine. Don't get racist like Matt Footer's back on the show, missed one day.
Woo!
Don't
You
get
allowed
racist.
me back in here?
Well, you got fired, yeah.
That's true.
He only was on the show for 2 days in a row, and then Zach went, nope, too much. Can't deal with him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you did okay. Did you do okay?
I did dynamite.
He did
Dynamite?
bad
Dynamite
enough to
kid.
get fired after 2 days. All right, let's see if we can make it through the show. Zach's not here to actually watch over us and fire any of us, so free reign. It's free reign Friday.
I like it.
Ooh,
Yes.
I like that. That's
It's
a good
free
reign.
reign. Let's be honest. On the Star Fantasy League show, we always have a gimmick to every day. Tuesday is food day. Wednesday is singing day. Free reign Friday means we do whatever we want.
Very nice.
It's our show. We do whatever we want anyways. Don't really care.
Yeah.
All right, so today is Friday, which means it is the weekend fantasy focus. We're giving you all of your value plays, top plays of the week. We're playing Would You Rather, which is where we like to fight a lot. That's pretty much the best segment in the history of sports radio. And we're giving you our stacks of the week on starfantasyleagues.com. But before we get to that, it is time for news, and I don't want to talk about it.
Well, hang on. Now, you should want to talk about it, actually. I'm surprised that you don't have something to say to all the Baltimore fans that are out there tooting their own horn today. They won in their own building.
As we know,
Oh,
John is
whoa.
the most optimistic person
Yes,
about
he is.
everything.
Very
so,
optimistic.
Mr. Optimistic.
I'm sure that must be true. Last night's game, we had almost the same exact statistics for both teams. The turnovers in that game, the momentum in that game was pretty much what swung everything.
Chalk it right up to their fans. I really think that much of what happened, they were moving the ball. They moved the ball, and then all of a sudden you would find they get down towards their 30, 20-yard line, and all of a sudden something happens. They turn the ball over early in the game.
Yep, Justin
They get
Brown,
stopped,
thank you.
So, and I mean, man, their kicker was on. Tucker was on.
Yeah, Tucker was definitely on.
Teams in 2013 with a -3 turnover ratio were 2-41. So that pretty much means you're never going to win. If you
Yeah,
turn
I
the
mean,
ball
one
through.
of those was very late. Roethlisberger threw an interception when the game was already out of hand. But that you could tell after that first fumble on the first drive after we'd driven, 78 yards or something
Yep.
like that. This Justin Brown, I don't like him. He just doesn't – every time he gets the ball, he seems like a young foal that's just kicking and jumping around. He doesn't seem right when he has the ball. He definitely seems like a young kid.
Well, he catches the ball, so he's doing something right.
He's
young.
He had 2 catches. One of them he fumbled.
Antonio Brown happened to be out when that happened. So
This is true.
I don't know. I don't put a ton of stock in this because in this rivalry, home field advantage
Very,
is so much.
very,
It's
very important. Let's also put some importance on how good Le'Veon Bell continues to look. 5 catches in this game. Again, that's 5 or more catches in both games so far, which is on pace for a lot of catches for
That's
him.
what I didn't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about Le'Veon Bell.
Because you didn't take him.
I gave him up.
Yeah, bad.
Stupid.
We talked about this in one of our mock drafts where he fell to the 3rd round, and everyone's, oh, yeah, he's falling. It's like, take him. What are you doing? He's the number 1 guy. Again, over 100 total yards. This could be every game where he gets over 100 yards. He did it pretty easily. I didn't see anything really all that impressive from him. He gritted it out, and he got his yards.
Yeah, to only have 16 touches to get that,
Yep.
that's a really good average.
And don't forget, LeGarrette Blount, 3 touches. 3. And 1 target in the passing game. That's it.
Huge.
Yeah.
So guess what? We have a workhorse on our hands. Again, they were down pretty big last night for most of the game. That's why Ben Roethlisberger was forced to throw.
Well, and something different that you're looking at him this year as compared to last year, when he gets hit, he doesn't just go down. I mean, I know
He's
he always
moving.
worked, but usually he would get capped at about 75, 80 yards last season. This time, he's not going down, and he is finding ways to make a ton of yards after first contact. He does look great.
He's healthy. I'm excited. What about on the Baltimore side of the ball? Anything that really stuck out for you?
Yeah, how about Bernard Pierce still being the starting running back there? He's still getting the ball, so all of this Justin Forsett talk, although he looked good, Forsett looked good, Bernard Pierce is still going to be involved in the game, so I'm not sure.
From a fantasy standpoint, because Forsett actually had 4 catches to go along with his 56 yards, they had pretty much the same exact stats.
Yep.
So.
And Torrey Smith, where were you? Where was Torrey?
Nowhere.
Gone.
Yeah.
Nowhere's the AF. 3 targets, 1 catch, 10 yards. But Steve Smith, I mentioned the word safety blanket. Again, 10 targets, 6 catches for Joe Flacco. That's a big pickup.
Look at his yards after the catch, too.
Yep.
Oh, my God. He looks like a beast.
That puts him at 25 targets for 2 weeks so far. He
That's
led the league
nuts.
last week with 15. To get 10 again this week, crazy.
That is crazy.
Yep, and the tight ends got involved. Owen Daniels, 2 touchdowns.
Touchdown stealer.
I know.
Vulture.
Pitta's in there as well, getting some catches. So looks like that 2 tight end system they're implementing is actually working now that they have 2 healthy tight ends.
A la Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, sounds about right. All right, we got to move on because it is time. We're not talking about the past. We're talking about the future on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Week 2 weekend fantasy focus is here. That means we are 2 days away from football.
Oh, yeah.
How excited are you guys for this? I love football.
I mean, we were talking on, if you listen to Tuesday and Wednesday show, we were just saying how much those days sucked because we were so far away from football. We got a little slice of it last night. You had
I didn't have any slice of it.
You had the full thing given to you, but
Yes.
it was pretty terrible. You probably sent it back. So
Yeah, I did. I actually did. I asked for second. Yeah. I didn't want that first one.
you
Sorry.
get it on Sunday. So
I'll actually have the chance to watch the Red Zone channel this weekend all day, as opposed to last week where I had to watch the Steelers game. Meh. I like Red Zone. It makes me really happy. Look, I said something that made me happy, Nick. Are you confused by that?
Very confused. I'm not really sure what to say there.
Optimistic.
That is true. All right, let's get to the weekend fantasy focus on this show. We always like to give you our value picks of the week, our top weekend winners, and then we'll get to a spirited game of Would You Rather. Let's start it right off, though, with Value Corner, which is where we give you your top value plays that are going to save the most money. Let's start it with quarterback, though. Who we got, Foot?
This week I went with a guy, obviously in Star Fantasy League's values, quarterbacks are always rated high, so it's very tough to find guys who are actually value, quote unquote.
Oh, stop that. You can always find some value. Geno Smith's available. No, he's not.
Yeah, what'd
What'd you just say?
I
What
was
did you
just
say, John?
I
Could
wanted
you
to
repeat yourself,
I
please?
wanted to get you riled up, and it worked.
I went with a guy that I'm thinking most people will probably have is Jake Locker, just under $14,000. He had 67% completion percentage last week. Kansas City's defense was not looking good. They're playing a worse defense this year in Dallas. That was 30th against passing
Worse.
yards last year.
Try much worse. This
Yeah.
is a bottom 3 defense in all categories right now.
They allowed 33 passing touchdowns last year, so
Ugh.
I really like Locker as an option, possibly maybe top 10, more likely top 12 to 14, I'd say.
Overall, stop that. I think he
What
could
do you
be I think he could be much higher than that this week.
I have him as my number 5 quarterback.
I was like, I actually had him. I was going to say top 8. I think they're anywhere in there is about right.
What Colin Kaepernick did on a short field with that Dallas defense, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how bad that secondary is. He is Jake Locker, first off. I had him coming into the season with Ken Wisenhunt, really high on him. Now,
the quarterback
going
wizard.
against Dallas,
The quarterback
exactly. Going against Dallas, he's going to have a field day. So Kendall Hunter, Wright, Delaney Walker, all of them are in play.
Justin
and I
Hunter.
think, or Justin Hunter, I'm sorry.
He just combined him into one player. Just whatever. It's one
Kendall
player.
Hunter,
Yeah.
yes. I think that whole passing offense is going to be fantastic this week. So I love that play.
I completely agree. Another, you got another quarterback for us, Nick, for value?
Well, I got to ask because this is my first football show. So what's our value play here? That's a little under 14,000, right?
All right, so I'll if you want to just get some ideas, I am interested in Ryan Fitzpatrick to save a lot of money, just
that
under
too.
12,000 StarFantasyLeagues.com, playing at Oakland. Do I have to explain to you why I like insert quarterback X playing at Oakland? Just go.
Time out, though, because what about Carlos Rogers, Terrell Brown? Those guys actually didn't do too bad last week, and I know they're going up against Geno Smith and the Jets, but they did hold their own a little bit.
You are such a fan, a reverse weirdo fan of Geno Smith. It doesn't matter.
Listen.
I don't care. He's so bad.
Geno Smith is not bad.
Okay.
He is not bad. I don't know where you're coming up with this.
We're not getting into this fight
Okay,
again.
all right.
Every
We will find-
week we have this
we'll
fight.
We'll find out the next time he throws.
He was one of the most
23 for 28.
Last 4 games last season, he was one of the more consistent scoring high quarterbacks.
He is going to have a fine season.
You guys make me sick.
He's taking a step forward. He is fine.
Make me sick.
No, I mean, I agree. I think that this is going to be a nice matchup for Fitzpatrick, especially for Andre Johnson. I think that offense should be set to go against Oakland, but I think they're going to run the ball a lot more than pass it.
You know what? That's a great transition because for running backs, there's a guy who should be a top 5 in price on StarFantasyLeagues.com, but Arian Foster is at $11,500. I actually think he has the best overall value for a guy that has a potential to be a top 3 running back this week.
Absolutely. I mean, this Oakland defense, they did nothing against the run last week.
Yeah, Chris Ivory went nuts. Chris Johnson went. Yep. Everybody went nuts.
They broke big runs. They got it down to the goal line. No contest whatsoever. Arian Foster should be locked and loaded.
I went with a guy. I did this earlier in the week, so at the time he still might end up playing. I went with the guy with super cheap. I went with Bobby Rainey because of the issues with Doug Martin. It's only coming.
Yeah, there are a lot of potential guys who could be out for running backs this week.
He's only coming in at 3,000, which is if he starts for a starting running back, that's unbelievable. The last 6 games last year that he played in and started, he had 129 rushes for 487 yards. I mean, the guy was on a tear. When he gets the opportunity to be the starting back, when he comes in a reserve role, he's not as effective. I like him this week. I mean, he had 4 touchdowns in those games as well. So,
all right.
Anytime you can get a starter for the minimum, that's definitely
exactly
the way to go.
I'm actually looking at some really inexpensive guys in Tennessee as well. Sean Green and Dexter McCluster. Both of them are really inexpensive. Because it's PPR on StarFastLeagues.com, I actually think Dexter McCluster could be a decent play against Dallas.
Could be. I mean, I think that the passing offense is going to be all in play, so if you're going to play either of them, McCluster would be the way to go. I have issues with their running game, though. I just think that Ken Wisenhunt doesn't even know what to do with it, so I don't really know what to do with it.
He only sees quarterback. He goes, running guy.
Well, yeah, and everybody was high on Bishop Sankey coming into the season, but Ken Wisenhunt literally came out and said, I'm not sure what to do with this guy yet. So they're still figuring it out. I don't know if it's time to jump ship on him, but definitely not go all in on him.
I really want to pick Ken Wisenhunt's brain and hear him just say, this guy about everything, if he really says that. That
does sound about right. A couple guys I want to give some honorable mention to. I think Darren Sproles could have a monster week, especially catching the ball at Indianapolis, 84.75. Frank Gore is so inexpensive because he did basically nothing in week 1. He's down at 8,700. They're playing Chicago. Chicago breeds points, right?
Sure.
Fantasy matchup of the week.
Love it.
I mean, look what Buffalo did against them last week. Multiple backs with 50-plus yards each. So
yeah, that is true. That's why I like that matchup. And coming after the break, we are continuing Value Corner and giving you our weekend winners for Week 2 of the NFL season. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
Donald's mailbag will not be part of the weekend fantasy focus on the Star Fantasy League show because we're just talking fantasy today. If you want to be part of the show, though, tweet us your would you rathers. Give us 2 players with similar salaries on StarFantasyLeagues.com, and we'll pose the question live on the show.
I love it.
Pretty good, right?
That sounds a little scary.
Yeah,
this is on the spot.
This is Nick's first would you rather. He's
yeah.
He goes, could you show me the list? I'm like, that's the point. I don't show you the list, and then you fight right on the spot.
See, but now you're like the what do you call it? The mini-net there?
I'm the game master.
Puppeteer.
The puppeteer, game master, whatever you want to call it.
When we used to do this last year, Seth and Zach would just go at it.
Oh, they'd fight. They would.
It would be epic.
Zach fights for the sake of fighting. He really does.
Well, Matt, I got to ask you, have you ever listened to me on the show? Because I haven't even begun to fire up yet.
He will heat up.
I'm sitting back.
He's like NBA Jam. Yeah, he'll heat up.
I'm ready to go.
All right, let's keep going. We were talking about value corner running backs before the break. You wanted to mention one more, Nick, before we moved on.
Yeah, how about Darren McFadden? I mean, MJD's not going to play this weekend, and Houston didn't really do that great against Alfred Morris last week. So I don't know. I kind of like it. I know Darren McFadden's injury prone, but when you're talking weekly fantasy football, you really don't need to worry about that at all. So
if you looked at a lot of Derek Carr's passes too, He didn't have many more than 10 yards. I don't know the exact number, but he was captain check down all day. So catching out of the backfield, that's a good option, I think. So.
And where's Rashad Jennings when you need him?
Yeah.
We know McFadden can be an explosive
Maybe
runner.
Marcel Reese, too.
It's just a matter of whether he stays on the field.
That is true. All right, let's move on to another guy we already mentioned briefly, but he's still valued really, really low. Andre Johnson, $10,530. Again, I think that whole Houston team's in play.
I love him. I love Andre Johnson, and I don't understand how a 1,400-yard receiver who had 3 different quarterbacks last year can be undervalued at all. This guy makes quarterbacks, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, he gets to play in a nice environment in Houston.
He's a fantasy star. He really is. He just gets his stats. He's not a great football guy,
We
but
would
he's
love
a
to see
stat
him
guy.
catch a touchdown, though. He has to get in the end zone. If he gets in the end zone, he could be in the top 5. I really think he could push for that, but they don't get down in the red zone enough, and they don't utilize him enough right down near the goal line. Just a tough one, but he's still going to get his catches. So PPR leagues, fire him up.
Yep, that is very true. And StarFantasyLeagues.com is all PPR, so you get your 1 point no matter what.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
I like it a
It's
lot.
pretty nice. All right, I have to talk about one guy that I mentioned last week, and I think he's going to have even more chances to go nuts this week. Allen Hurns. Cecil Shorts might not play. Marquise Lee tweaked his hamstring in practice. Let's be honest, if one or both of those guys are hampered in any way, Allen Hurns is one of the best values on the entire slate.
Yeah, he flew right in under the radar all preseason, didn't he? I mean, oh, come on.
I did. I mentioned him.
Come on.
Yeah, I did.
It's
It's on the. We have recordings of the show. I'll go back to the Jacksonville show. I will.
I wrote about the Hearns this week. I didn't like him if Shorts played because that's most likely. Obviously, if he does play at that value, it makes him exponentially great. The guy I'd like to toss in, it would be Kembrell Tompkins. He went. His salary is $4,600. Last week, he led wide receivers in targets with 10. And look what Brian Quick did against that Minnesota defense, 7 for 99. I like a big week from Tompkins.
The only thing the problem I have with Tompkins is that he has very unsure hands, and I mean he showed
That's
flashes.
being kind.
He showed flashes of being able to get downfield and catch deep passes, but when you can't come up with, you can have as many targets as you want, but if you can't come down with 70 to 80% of those, they're really not going to factor in that much.
I actually looked back at the film and watched all 10 targets. He had 5 catches out of it. All the targets that he didn't catch were out of bounds because Brady overthrew him, or they were uncatchable.
That's good.
So,
I mean, that's good. So it definitely could work out. Minnesota's defense looked okay though in other respects, but if he does lead the team in targets again, could be a sneaky play.
I think Brady's going to come out fired up. Like I don't see him having
Coming off a loss, he should be a little.
He's going to come out with his cane all fired up.
All right, one young guy who doesn't require a cane is Justin Hunter.
He might.
We're going to keep talking about this. Dallas, the worst secondary I've ever seen. They are beaten and battered.
I love Justin Hunter, and they haven't even really begun to kind of scratch the surface of what this guy can do. Once they get down in the red zone, look for him to start getting some targets in the end zone. I really think they're going to start running that fade to him. It's going to be game over.
It's beautiful. All right, let's move on to tight ends because I sound like a broken record here, but the worst team in the league fantasy-wise against the tight end position was Arizona last year, and week 1 of the season, what did they do? They went out there and they allowed all of the fantasy production to Antonio Gates and Latarius Green in week 1. I figure this to continue, especially with John Abraham missing in the middle. Guess what? There's a wide open lane for a guy who caught a bunch of balls, Larry Donnell for the Giants. I think he's the only man that Eli Manning can find.
I wouldn't disagree with you because he couldn't find anybody.
That's what I'm saying. He's okay. We want to say captain checkdown again. Larry Donnell just basically sat 8 to 12 yards from the quarterback and kept catching the ball.
I just get nervous about that offensive line, and if he can't get that ball off, I know checkdowns, that's fine, but he got rocked all last week. He got rocked.
The
and
line
he just
was
had
not.
to get rid of it.
We talked about it on the show. The line was not addressed. It was the biggest glaring hole on that team, other than running back, obviously. But man, They did not address either of those issues.
No, they didn't. I think Donnell is a great, or Donnell, however you want to say
Donnell.
it. Donnell.
Yeah, don't get it wrong. John will get mad.
Yeah, I like saying Donnell.
Oh yeah, you know what? You know what he loves to do? He loves to correct me and correct me in the most incorrect way that he could possibly do. It's great. I love looking those up.
Careened.
So yeah, I mean, at the price, unbelievable value. I think it's great. He's going to be the starting tight end. Anytime you get that with an Eli Manning offense where he loves to check that ball down, you're right. I like that pick.
Yep. Again, Arizona. How about any other guys that tight ends that have some value? Because there's a bunch of them that look like they could be pretty good plays.
I went with someone just based on what happened to the quote-unquote starter this week. I went with Jermaine Gresham. He's at 4,400 with Eifert being ruled out until
Yeah, let's not talk about what happened to Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, that was pretty nasty.
Gross.
Gresham's definitely not a guy that is much of a threat most of the time, so probably average 4 receptions, 40 yards, maybe good for an end zone target. But he did get 5 targets last week as the technical backup for, pretty much the first half and was the main guy the second half. Who knows with this Andy Dalton offense, the guy likes to sling the ball around. He'll just chuck up prayers to, A.J. Green, so who knows what
They're really not prayers, though, because A.J. Green comes down with them.
It's true. But he might do the same thing just because he says, oh, my one guy can do it. Maybe someone else can do this. So yeah. I like Gresham this week as a value play.
Not so much of a value play for me, but you know who the top 2 tight ends are going to be, Julius Thomas and Jimmy Graham. I like Zach Ertz a lot this week, and I know that he's right middle of the pack, but going up against Indy, I love that matchup. I think
53.5 over under there.
What Julius Thomas did last week against them was fantastic, and Ertz is definitely the number 1 guy in that offense in terms of tight ends.
he's gonna break out this season for sure, and I expect him to have a monster year. All right, let's quickly talk about value corner defenses before we move on to the weekend winners. Defense, I'm just going to have what we call the Sean Hill stream alert going on. Anytime St. Louis is playing anybody competent, I want to take their defenses. It's Tampa Bay in this case. I think they can get a bunch of sacks here, maybe an interception or 2. Just go with it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, you saw what happened last week, and it's going to continue. Who knows if Sean Hill even starts at this
great.
point.
Austin Davis. Ooh, sorry, the Austin Davis alert. My bad.
Yeah. I went with I'm kind of doing the same trend how we were talking about anyone who's playing against Oakland. I'm doing the reverse for any defense that's playing against the Jets. I'm completely with. That means Green Bay this week, who has a 2,343 value, which is like super cheap on the website. The Jets put up 19 on Oakland's terrible defense last week. I mean, it's going to be wreaking havoc on Geno Smith. Clay Matthews is going to be in the backfield all day on them. So I like Green Bay's defense this week.
So are we going value, or is this just a streaming matchup?
No, it's mostly value. We'll talk about the weekend winner for defense as well.
I love Arizona then.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona
Giants.
against Eli Manning and
Giants,
the Giants.
baby.
So I think Patrick Peterson being in that secondary gives you an immediate boost. I think they're a great play this week.
Perfect. All right, we're done with value corner, which means it's time for the weekend winners. This is regardless of price. It could be a value guy. It could be an expensive guy. It's everybody at each position who we think is going to get you the most fantasy points on StarFantasyLeagues.com. Let's start out with the quarterbacks. We're not going to give you 4 different options. We're each going to pick one, and we're going to move along. So, Footer, start us up for a weekend winner quarterback.
I mean, he's the top guy on the site. I got to go Peyton Manning, playing a Kansas City defense that allowed 26 to Tennessee last week. What is Manning going to put up? I think he's going to put up easily 4 touchdowns, just right on the board.
4?
So.
Wow.
Just slamming it down.
No big deal. 4
slamming
touchdowns.
it down.
Whatever. It's going to happen.
Easily. Very nice. I got Aaron Rodgers against the Jets. They were a banged-up secondary. That's my boy. I know.
Homer.
Homer. Come on. D. Milliner could come back, and he could probably hobble out there, but it's not going to do anything.
That's even worse.
So they're going to be fine, and I think Rodgers is just going to blow that secondary apart this week.
All right, my top guy, I really want to go with Colin Kaepernick, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with Andrew Luck. Philadelphia Eagles, this is one of the highest over-unders of the weekend, and there's good reason for that. I think this is going to be a shootout.
It is going to be a shootout. This is going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, this is going to be an entertaining. These are 2 obvious playoff teams. Well, we expect to be playoff teams, regardless of Philly's first half last week, which looked just depressing.
A terrible Indy run game, although Bradshaw's looked okay.
Yeah, how's Trent Richardson looking, Nick?
Trent Richardson didn't do too bad from a fantasy standpoint last week. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Out of here with this crap.
I'm not done.
All right.
I'm not done.
So we're going to move on to weekend winner running back. And Nick, you're going with Trent Richardson?
I'm going with Adrian Peterson against the Patriots because the Dolphins put up a ton of rushing yards last week against the Patriots. AP is going to run all day.
So you're not going with Trent Richardson. Can I confirm this?
Do we need to talk about where I had Trent Richardson on the scale?
In the 3rd round.
Do we need to talk about that? Not even close.
You went on a limb.
This is what he does. He exaggerates. He likes to blow it up like I made some crazy prediction.
No, Zach and I did talk about this on the show. You were very in his corner. You said he's definitely coming back.
I said he is going to have a nice bounce back season, and I was drafting him in the 6th round, I believe. So I like it. I still think he's going to be fine.
I hate him so much.
He's going to be fine.
I went with the same guy that Nick went with.
I thought you were going to say Trent Richardson. I was like, no, don't do it.
No, I went with Peterson. I mean, they gave up to 134 to Marino. He pretty much said that already. it's going to be a field day for Adrian Peterson running all over the field. So
Yeah, it would be really boring if we all went with the same people every time. That's why when I do my research for this show, I don't just pick one person. Why would you do that?
because he's my top guy.
God,
I can't. If I think it's going to be him, why would I just say, you know what? He picked him. I'm going to pick someone
fine.
else.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I actually do have Adrian Peterson listed technically as my second guy, but I did like him potentially as the top guy. But everyone, I said last week everyone was going to go with LaShawn McCoy on StarFantasyLeagues.com. I believe he was almost 40% owned in our biggest contest, so that's really highly owned for one single guy. Absolutely. I said go with Matt Forte. Again, I think Adrian Peterson is going to be the guy who's super highly owned this week. That's why I would go with Marshawn Lynch. I think he's going to be fairly under-owned. San Diego looked okay, but it was against a banged-up Arizona offense.
Yeah, I was going to say, Andre Ellington actually looked good, but he even said himself he couldn't cut off the one foot as well as he could the other. So, yeah, I think that's a good pick as well.
Yeah, I definitely think Marshawn Lynch, he has it, and he's still going to continue to put up points, put up touchdowns, red zone carries. That's what you want.
And eventually he'll end up in a wheelchair by the end of the season because he's too old.
Wow, that was the most negative thing we could have ended the segment with. Thank you a lot.
Too old.
We're coming back. We're talking more weekend winners and Would You Rather. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on 105.5 The Team.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at StarFantasyLeagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League Show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick. Only on The Team.
Wrong. We are back on the Star Fantasy League Show with Jonathan, Nick, and Matt Footer.
He was wrong again.
I know. The Cage guys, you're going to learn very quickly. The Cage guy just does not understand. I think he's a broken record at this point.
I'm hoping by the next time I get fired that he gets it right by that
Yeah,
point,
not a chance. He's never. Old dog does not learn new tricks in the Star Fantasy League Show.
Fair enough.
Never going to happen. All right, let's move on. Before the break, we were talking about weekend winners. Those are the top fantasy scorers on StarFantasyLeagues.com. We talked about all the running backs. Let's move along to wide receivers. All right, Foot, you're up first.
All right. If you're seeing the trend here about who my stack of the week will be, you'll kind of pick it up.
No one's paying attention.
I'm going to Demaryius Thomas. I think he's going to be the top guy. Again, terrible Kansas City defense. Led the team last week with 11 targets. Actually, even though it looked like Julius Thomas was just getting every ball thrown to him, he actually wasn't.
He caught all the balls thrown to him.
He did catch them all. He had an off week last week, 4 for 48, but I expect a bounce back week from him. I don't think there's anything to worry about.
I think he's going to be pissed that he only caught 4 balls for 48 yards last week.
I don't think he's that kind of guy, though.
No, I think he is.
Really?
I think he will definitely get that fire inside, and he's going to have a big week. My second guy behind him is Calvin Johnson, and I know the Carolina Panthers have a pretty decent defense, but I don't think they were tested at all last week, and Calvin Johnson can't be stopped. So if you saw the first quarter, he literally just tore apart that secondary within seconds, and it was over. And I just don't think there's any way you can stop this guy. He's on a tear.
So you're saying hide your wives, hide your kids, Calvin Johnson's coming to town?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of Megatron. He just looks like he could kick you and you would die.
Yeah, he does look like that, but he's also a pretty soft-spoken individual.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
He's a nice guy.
Very classy guy.
He's a very
Sophisticated.
nice man.
Very nice man. My top weekend winner might be a nice man. I don't think I've ever seen him have an interview or talk in his life. It's AJ Green. Atlanta, they're kind of privy to getting into shootouts again. And like we said, Andy Dalton throws up what we'd call prayers a lot to AJ Green, but he catches them more often than not. I just think this is a great matchup for him against a secondary that was pretty much, bottom third of the league last season?
Yeah, they don't have anybody that can stop him. Trufant, Alford, nobody. They're not going to stop him. AJ Green's fired. Ready to go.
Man, I really wanted to go out on a limb and pick Kendall Wright. I see big things for Kendall Wright this weekend.
I think Justin Hunter's going to have a better game.
See, okay, Zach and I are on a Kendall Wright train.
I know.
Why can't we just say we're on the Tennessee wide receiver train and be together?
Because that would mean that we're friends, and we ain't friends.
We ain't friends on this show, guys. Oh, you guys are not really nice.
No, that wide receiver core is really good.
Oh, we have to preface it by saying, as long as Jake Locker stays healthy. I can't even name their backup now. Who's their backup? It's not Ryan Fitzpatrick, I can tell you that much.
Zach Mettenberger.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but is he actually the backup? Is he third?
What's it? Charlie.
Charlie Whitehurst?
Charlie
Hold
Whitehurst,
on.
isn't he?
My favorite nickname in the league, Charlie Clipboard. He's actually called Charlie Clipboard.
I think he's still in San Diego, though.
No, maybe he is.
No, because I remember during the offseason we talked about him as a new addition to one of the teams. I think it was Tennessee.
Oh, goody.
Is he really? Oh, bring it up. No, you're not going to find it. All right, let's move along to the tight end weekend winners. How about you, Foot? You get to start again because Nick is looking up something for us.
Well, I'll go since I can see your notes, and I don't want to go with your top guy.
I don't actually. They're not listed in the order of who I think is going to be top.
You don't need to worry about my notes. I definitely got a guy in mind.
Oh, okay. Well,
I got 3 guys written down.
I'm going to go with Jimmy Graham because they're playing a terrible Browns defense. Cameron looked pretty good in the first half last week, but against them, I just expect a big game again from Graham. He didn't have the best game in a shootout last week, which was a little surprising, but I expect him to bounce back.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick as well. I'm actually going to go with Vernon Davis.
Oh,
against the Bears.
that was my under the radar top guy.
I love tight ends against the Bears. I mean, when Jermichael Finley was playing for the Packers, it was almost a guarantee that you could have 2 or 3 touchdowns against the Bears. So I think Vernon Davis is going to be great. Another underrated guy that really could be in the top 5. And last week he was pretty solid as well. So I think this is going to be a great matchup.
I agree completely. I'm going with the obvious one. Julius Thomas, going to have a monster week. I don't need to say anything more. Thomas to Thomas, just pick him. Pick anybody named Thomas on that Denver team, and you're fine this week.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly talk about defense before we move on to my favorite segment and the debut for Nick with Would You Rather. You're excited, aren't you?
I'm excited, yes.
All right, so quick, let's talk about defense. You mentioned the word Eli Manning, which is defensive gold if you're talking about Arizona. Again, they're a banged-up team, but we're talking about sacks, we're talking about interceptions, fumbles. This team can get a few turnovers from Eli Manning.
Yeah, that banged-up defense didn't look banged up last week. They pretty much held their own.
I still think they could. They're a team that could, despite all their injuries, win 9 or 10 games. They really are.
Their run defense was stellar. Ryan Matthews didn't go anywhere. Danny Woodhead got involved just a little bit.
Yeah, they did not give him the ball enough.
And, I mean, they really, for the most part, shut down Keenan Allen except for those under routes. So that was a solid performance by them.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Denver's defense. They looked really good in the first half last week.
In one half.
In one half. Granted, they're playing against Andrew Luck, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, whereas Alex Smith is not one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Wrong. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Alex Smith. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confusing him with someone else.
Okay.
It's anyone else.
Dead serious.
Yeah,
he was dead
serious. I know,
serious.
for a second, I was like, I'm not Seth sitting here.
I know,
you don't have to argue with me.
Seth is the most irrational Alex Smith hater in the world. It's really fun.
No, I mean, Kansas City only put up 10 points last week against a Tennessee defense that was ranked middle of the road last year, 14th. So I like Denver's defense a lot this week.
All right, I'm tired of talking about defenses. Let's please move along to Would You Rather. You guys haven't actually seen these matchups. I posed them. You guys fight it out to the death. There are no winners in this game, but one of you will win. So
Where's the cage?
He's a
it's
lot
obviously
bigger
in the
than
corner.
me. He's going to kill me.
It doesn't matter.
Come on. I thought we were in the cage here. Steel cage match.
That's a little
Would
weird.
you rather get in the steel cage with Nick or in the cage with Zach?
Speaking of the Steel Cage, shout out to the Steel Cage podcast. What's up, guys? I have to do that every show.
here we
Every
go.
time you mention the word Steel Cage, I have to give a shout out. All right, Would You Rather? We're talking about
Steel cage.
Stop it. We're talking about quarterbacks first for Would You Rather. Colin Kaepernick, 17,195, or RG3, 17,183. Just $12 separating these two.
I am jumping this before he even gets a shot. Colin Kaepernick over RG3 any day,
I thought
regardless
hold
of
on.
the matchup.
I thought you hate Skampernick.
Yeah,
Don't you make fun of him all the time?
I hate him with a passion. But that's because he beats my team every single time.
Oh, okay. So so you're actually
No,
thinking you think rationally when it comes to Colin Kaepernick.
Here's what I got for you. 49ers on Sunday Night Football against the Bears, who are not a solid defense. This is their home opener
That's
in a
being
new
nice.
stadium. Everything's going to be working for the 49ers, and I think there is no chance that he comes even close to RG3 in his crappiness.
I actually think, I'm not part of this segment, obviously. I think Colin Kaepernick, I had him written down as a possibility of being a top 5 for one of my top weekend winners. I think he's in that
He's certainly
conversation.
pushing it. I think I have him as 7.
Yeah.
This is one where I can't argue with Nick, unfortunately. I have to go Kaepernick.
This is the worst start.
See, he doesn't want to get in the cage.
This is the worst start to the segment in history. All right, this one should be interesting. Jake Locker, 13,987, or Ryan Fitzpatrick, saving you a little bit of money, 11,952.
Well, I know you like Locker as a top 5, so I'll try to argue in Fitzpatrick's favor just because of the value that you're going to get. You're playing against a terrible Oakland defense that Geno Smith put up points on. Granted, Geno Smith was a nice player at the end of last year, but Oakland's defense is it's so pathetic. It's scary to even see that they actually even feel the defense when they put it out there. So I'm going to go with Fitzpatrick. Being a Buffalo fan, I saw the days where you made the point earlier, He's not a good quarterback. He's a good fantasy quarterback, and that
Correct.
makes a big difference.
And
so,
we are talking fantasy on StarFantasyLeagues.com, so that makes sense.
We are, and he's on the road, so he's going to be even more of a just going to sling the ball around. So.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I think Jake Locker could finish in the top 5 this week, and I think that Dallas's defense has everything to do with it. I think Ken Wisenhunt has everything to do with it. The receivers are solid. I think this is going to be a great day for him. I don't even need to argue this.
Perfect. All right, let's move on then. Marshawn Lynch, 14,159, or Jamal Charles, 13,990. I think this is the least expensive we've seen Jamal Charles in like 2 seasons on StarFantasy.com.
I got Jamal Charles in a landslide in this one. And I'll
In
tell
a
you
what?
why. I'll tell you why. Andy Reid said last week that he made an enormous mistake, and every single time that Jamal Charles, throughout his entire career, came up with 5, 6, 10 touches, whatever it was, he came back the next week and exploded. I think he's going to have over 100 yards, maybe even over 120, and he's going to have at least 2 touchdowns.
This one's tough because I think both guys are going to be effective in that, but I'm going to go with Lynch on this just because
Fighting. I love fighting.
I think San Diego's defense is steps below Denver's defense, and I'm not going to downplay Denver's defense. I think they're actually really good this year, so I like Lynch as the possible guy this weekend. You're only spending $200 more, I think I see, for him. So I'm going to go with Lynch all day.
I like Lynch a lot this week. I did.
You
pick
liked
him
him all season.
What?
You liked him all season. You've been on his train the whole time.
I know. I talked to Tiki Barber. I said I love Marshawn Lynch, and he agreed. He said he wasn't going to break down.
Oh, okay. So Tiki says it, and you're all good.
I posed the question to him in the first place. What do you mean? You said I'm on his. Oh God, I can't deal. I can't deal with you right now. All right, let's bring it around with some homerism. Fred Jackson, 84.55, or Darren Sproles, 84.75.
This one's easy for me. I'm going to jump on this one.
What
Fred
a homer,
Jackson all
of course.
Day. Last year when they played Miami at home, I said it earlier this week, he had over 100 yards rushing. Spiller had almost 100 yards total together. They're going to light this Dolphins team up. Ryan Tannehill's 1-3 against them as a starter. He has 133 yards against them. So I know it doesn't matter, but I think Buffalo's going to be so far ahead, they're going to end up just keep running the ball.
It's going to be great on Monday when they lose and all these Bills fans
fall
fall off their pedestal.
They are not going to lose. I'm sorry. I agree. You are completely right. Woo. I love Fred Jackson this week. He is going to be a monster. The Ralph is going to be rocking. This
baby.
is going to be a great game. I am so excited for Buffalo on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Being on in Rochester, I have to be excited. If the Bills are good, that means this show is going to be a lot more fun.
And your boss
this
is
team to
happy,
win.
too.
Yeah, that is true. Zach will be very, very happy. All right, let's move on. Reggie Wayne, 10,296, or Brandon Cooks, 10,158.
I don't know how this is a discussion. Reggie Wayne is a beast. He is literally a beast. If anybody had any doubts about his health, they just went right out the door. The front door, not the back. He absolutely smoked this team last week, and the Eagles are not going to be able to stop him. I think Brandon Cooks is a flash in the pan.
Wow.
Absolute flash in the pan.
Ooh, I'm just going to argue that just because he said that. I'm going to go with Cooks because he got 7 catches for 77 yards last week and a touchdown in his rookie premiere. Most of the time, rookie wide receivers aren't that good their first year, except for Keenan Allen last year, a couple guys here or there. But I think in this offense, all the coverage goes to Graham and Colston. I think Cooks is just going to pick up everything that comes his way.
I was going to say, Joe Hayden will not be covering Brandon Cooks. I will guarantee you that.
I think the only reason that he had so many looks last week was because Kenny Stills. There was no Kenny Stills.
I still think he gets the looks this week. So,
all right, one more before we head to break. Brandon Marshall, 14,343, or the big boy AJ Green, 14,885.
Well, I'm not confident Marshall will be 100% this week.
Well, isn't Jeffrey potentially not playing in this game too?
Yeah, it's a scary scenario for Jay Cutler. So I think you got to go with AJ Green in this. I'm thinking he'll probably agree with me as well. I mean, it's going to be a shootout against Atlanta.
Don't say what he'll probably do. Now he's going to go against you.
No, I wasn't going to go with you anyways. So I think the Bears are going to actually do really well on offense. The 49ers defense was not that impressive, and Des Bryant would have had a monster week if he hadn't gotten all dehydrated and whatnot.
I love fighting. We're coming out after the break, and you know what we're doing? More Would You Rather, which means more banter, more fighting. I love it. It's coming out after the break, and we're doing Stack of the Week. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are back, and we have cleaned up the blood in the cage as a result of the fight before the break that happened from Would You Rather.
Panting hard from that fight.
Okay, it's the radio. I think they can tell that was you panting. You don't need to explain that you were panting. That was pretty embarrassing. All right, we got a few minutes here before the show ends, so we got to get the last couple of Would You Rathers in. So, ready? Fight. Okay, we got Greg Olson, 10,413, or Vernon Davis, 9,900.
Oh man, that's
this
a
is
tough
two.
one.
These are two good tight
All
ends.
right, I got Vernon Davis. I love him against the Bears because the Bears, they just don't defend well against tight ends. I think that this is going to be a great matchup for him, and I think that they really only scratched the surface on what they can do as far as their offense because Dallas was so bad last week they kept turning the ball over, giving them a short field. Vernon Davis.
I completely disagree.
Woo! Here we go. I love that word.
Look at what Larry Donnell, no name, did against this Detroit team last week, and you got a guy, Greg Olson, who's proven in this league coming in. He's going to light this team up. With Cam Newton back, too, he's going to get even more targets. He's Cam's favorite target. Greg Olson all day.
That's a pretty good argument. Nick's making a face. He's like, oh, I think I made the wrong decision.
No, I didn't. I love Vernon Davis.
All right, fine.
Vernon's the man.
I know. We got two more here. These are flex options. Julius Thomas, 13,689, or the other Thomas, Demarius, 13,337. You got to pick.
Oh, man.
You got to pick which Thomas.
You're right.
Don't just say
geez.
Thomas either, because that's cheating.
Well, I'll go with I didn't pick Julius as my top tight end. I went with Demarius as my top wide receiver, so I got to go with him as my top flex option, even though he'd be my top wide receiver. So it doesn't really make sense. But,
Whoops, you just cheated again.
But Demarius all day. He's gonna bounce back from last week, and like he said, Nick said, he's gonna be pissed off. He's gonna get those catches.
I like pissed off.
Yeah, pissed off is good, but I like touchdowns more, and Julius Thomas is a big touchdown man. I got to go with him because I think he might turn out to really be the number 2 possibly overall tight end in the league. This is a great matchup for him. They're at home against a division rival, especially a division rival that really doesn't look that good at all on defense.
5 wins.
Yeah, I think Julius Thomas is going to be the man.
All right.
Yeah, Thomas in general.
Yeah, Thomas wins. That's what I said before.
Thomas,
I said Thomas and Thomas. You can't go any wrong
this
there.
week.
All right, the last Would You Rather of the week on the Weekend Fantasy Focus. Michael Floyd, 11,343, or Arian Foster, 11,500. This is a rough one.
I got Michael Floyd hands down. He is a monster. He looked so good last week.
Hold on.
I was so excited about it.
Didn't someone laugh at me when I said Larry Fitzgerald is 100% done as the number one and Michael Floyd's time is now?
No, because Fitzgerald is not 100% done, but
No,
it
I said
is
as
Michael
the number
Floyd's
one.
team.
Yeah, okay. Then we agree. I think Zach said it then that like, oh yeah, Fitzgerald's
No,
still
it was
the guy.
me. It was me.
Whatever.
I love Larry Fitzgerald, and I think that everybody's overreacting, but Michael Floyd is still going to have a big game.
Big
the
year,
Giants stink. Calvin Johnson just came right in, just smoked this team. Floyd's going to be a beast.
I want to end this segment arguing with them, but unfortunately I got to take it back where we started again. I have to completely agree with him on this one.
Ew.
Michael Floyd, just...
Does that mean I won the cage match?
No.
Well, we both went with Thomas, so we're okay. Right?
That's true.
No, this
Cheating again.
This Giants defense is absolutely terrible. There's no way Floyd doesn't have a huge game. 5 for 119 last week.
Giants 0-16. Do it.
All right, so we're done with Would You Rather. We got about a minute left here. Stack of the week, real quick. Tell me who you like. Tell me what team.
Denver, Manning, Thomas's, Monty Ball, defense. Done.
Perfect.
Titans. I love Jake Locker. Love the wide receivers. Stack up. Throw Delaney Walker in there, too. Going to be a great game from the passing perspective.
I love those two, but I also love San Francisco. Giving Kaepernick, Frank Gore, give me some Vernon Davis and see what's going on with Crabtree. If he's healthy, I might throw him in. And you guys should throw him in on StarFastLeagues.com. We got over $12,000 in guaranteed prize pool, and you can get in the game right now with a deposit bonus. Free 14 FREE14. That is 100% to $2,000 and an $11 credit directly in your account. You can use that right now to play in Week 2 contests. Football's here.
It's unbelievable. This is so awesome.
Honestly, I can't tell you how excited I am.
Is this your first full week since we've allowed you back? In the
I
country?
still snuck it in down in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, if you
Sorry, babe.
missed out on football in Mexico, you're doing vacation wrong. Take it easy, guys.